We have this one worksheet, 2.1 deductions problems. All right, so I'm going to go over this. So pull yours up so you can kind of follow along. We are just working at coming up with, in some cases, we're told what gross pay is, and others we need to calculate first gross pay. And then we're just working on using those tax percentages to calculate what the deductions would be. Now, we're only so far looking at the 4 mandatory deductions. We have the 2 payroll taxes and the 2 income taxes. All right, and we're reminded at the top what percentages we're using. Social Security and Medicare will always stay the same. Federal income tax, we know is a progressive system. So in general, as your income goes up, the percentage that you pay in income tax to the federal government goes up. Without getting into the details of that yet, we will eventually get into those details. We're using 15% just kind of as a placeholder, it's a really good estimate of what most individuals pay. Same thing for the Iowa state tax. Okay, we're a progressive tax until 2026. We're going to use 5% as our average kind of placeholder for that. All right, so scenario 1, your gross pay for the pay period is $500. So all we need to do is take $500 times the percentage for each of the appropriate taxes, right? So for Social Security, we're going to take 6.2% or 0.062 times our 500, and that comes out to be $31. For Medicare, 0.0145. Okay, that's about 1.45%. So as a decimal, 0.0145 times 500, that's 725. For federal income tax, we're using that 15%, or 0.15 times our 500 is $75. And then state is 0.05 times 500, that's $25. All right, for scenario 2, you get paid $12 an hour, you work 43 hours. So now we need to calculate our gross pay. And again, it's a little bit more difficult than just doing the amount that we're paid times the hours that we work, because as hourly wage earners, more than 40 hours in a week qualifies for overtime. So we need to break that up, and we need to calculate what our regular pay is for the first 40 hours, and then what our overtime pay is for the other 3 hours. So first, for my regular pay, 40 hours at $12 an hour is $480. And then we have 3 overtime hours. So for those hours, we're earning 1.5 times our normal $12 an hour. So 3 times 1.5 times 12 is 54 in overtime pay. And then we would add those up to get our total gross pay. All right, so 480 and 54 is $534 in total gross pay. Now we're going to use that 534 as the basis for calculating our taxes. So for Social Security, again, 0.062 times $534, so multiplied by our earnings is 3311. All right, for Medicare, 0.0145 times 534 is 774. For federal income tax, 15% or 0.15 times that 534 is $80.10. And then for state, 5% or 0.05 of 534 is 2670. All right, for scenario 3, you get paid $40,000 a year, and you get paid semi-monthly. All right, so the prefix semi meaning half. So semi-monthly means you get paid every half month or 2 times a month. Since there are 12 months in a year, that means you'll receive 24 paychecks. So the year is broken into 24 pay periods. So our gross pay for the period would be 40,000 divided by the number of periods that it's broken into, or 24, and that comes out to be $1,666.66 repeating, right? And we round to the nearest penny, so 0.67. So we're going to use that 1666.67 as a basis for calculating our taxes. So 0.062 times that is $103.33. All right, for Medicare, 1.45% or 0.0145 times that amount is 2417. Federal income tax, 15% is 250, and 5% for state income tax is 8333. All right, last one. You get paid $65,000 a year. You get paid monthly. So the year is broken into 12 pay periods. So 65,000 divided by 12 is 5416.67. Again, rounding to the nearest penny. So we're going to use that amount for our taxes. So 0.062 of that amount is 335.83. For Medicare, 0.0145 times that amount is 78.54. For federal income tax, 15% is 812.50, and for state income tax, 5% of that amount is 270.83. All right. So hopefully that was straightforward enough, right? All we're doing is we're just kind of building. Previously, we were looking at calculating our gross pay. So per pay period, we've taken that, okay, and we've added now in our deductions. We're going to add a little bit more to this. All right. And so what I'm going to have you do is from the 2.1 page. You scroll down below that deductions problem is this 2.1 gross pay, net pay, and deductions. All right. So what I'd like you to do is do this on your own and then come back and we'll walk through this together. So now we're adding in another layer of difficulty. All right. So we have now, did I open the correct one up? Yeah. We now have some voluntary deductions. All right. So we've got gross pay, we have pre-tax voluntary deductions. So remember, that's reducing our taxable income. And then we're going to use that reduced taxable income, okay, to calculate the 4 mandatory taxes. So for scenario 1, for example, your gross pay for the pay period is $500. You elected to contribute $35 to a retirement account through a paycheck deduction every paycheck. What is your taxable gross income for this pay period? So in this case, we would have $500, but 35 is being taken out for that pre-tax voluntary deduction. Okay. And so that comes out to be $465. That's going to be how much is taxed. So we made $500 this pay period, but only 465 of those dollars are being taxed. So we're going to use that 465 to calculate our taxes. So 465 times our Social Security percentage, which is 0.062, is, pull this up, 465 times 0.062, that's 2883. All right, for Medicare, we would have 465 times 0.0145. And that's 674.25. We're going to round to the nearest penny. So we need to look at that third decimal 2. Okay, that 2 is going to round the 74.25 down to just 74. So that's 674. All right, for federal income tax, we're going to multiply it by 0.15. And that's 69.5. And then for state income tax times 0.05. All right, 465 times 0.05 is 2325. All right, and then finally, what is our take-home pay? What is our net pay? All right, so we started with $500 earnings, 35 went to a retirement account, bringing us down to 465. And then we have these 4 taxes that we're taking out. So 465 minus the sum of 2883, 674, 695, and 2325. What is that, 2883? At 127. So 465 minus 127 is 336. All right, so we've added a layer of difficulty. We started out earlier in the standard in the unit, right? Just calculating gross pay. Now with a previous worksheet, we've worked on taking out our 4 mandatory deductions. Now we've got voluntary pre-tax deductions, lowering our taxable income. All right, so we're adding a layer of difficulty each time, and then we'll have one more worksheet where we add even another layer of difficulty. So what I'd like you to do is work through this worksheet, all right, and then we'll meet together again and we'll talk through this.